Welcome to another exciting and informative episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast, a place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. I am your host, life strategist Randolph Love III, and we do have another informative and educational entrepreneur on the podcast today. But before we bring them up, I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Shield Wolf Strongholds, a wealth growth and protection company. When it comes to estate planning, when it comes to employee benefits, when it comes to retirement planning, when it comes to everything that it relates to getting out of there. If you're a business owner that wants you and your employees to retire higher than you would have prior, make sure you visit shieldwolfstrong.com or call or text +1 902 904 822 4262. Now, our guest, Max Emma, is a certified franchise executive with years of hands-on experience in the franchise world. As an immigrant from the former Soviet Union, he arrived in the U.S. over 32 years ago, barely speaking English. Through his own creative know-how, he mastered English, graduated with honors, and climbed the ranks of corporate America, only to leave it behind 23 years ago to follow his entrepreneurial calling. He enjoys traveling, spending time with his kids, and relaxing with a single malt and a cigar. Max Emma, welcome to the Entreprenudist Podcast.
Hi, Randall. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for coming on, man. You've been doing this for a while, man. With you being a certified franchise executive, you're like the entrepreneur of entrepreneurs. Is there anything that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
Well, hopefully I know way more than I did when I started. But one thing that comes to mind is actually the fact that starting the franchise is way more expensive than you think. So if somebody is thinking about franchising their business and they have budget in mind, double it, if not triple it. And that's actually, I wish I knew when I started the franchising business.
Okay, so from what you discovered, what you thought it was going to be, it was at least 2 times more. What was something that made that price than what you thought it was go up?
Well, the marketing and advertising, because when we started the bookkeeping franchise, so first it was a bookkeeping business. We started doing bookkeeping for other franchise brands, 1, then 2, 3. We're now doing it for over 100 franchise brands. At some point, being around franchisors, I came up with the idea to franchise BooXkeeping and make it a franchise by itself. There was only one more bookkeeping franchise available besides us. We're number 2. Now, since then, they stopped franchising, so we are the only bookkeeping franchise. So we had to get the name out there and also educate people that bookkeeping franchises were available. So to give you an example, when we were exhibiting at the franchise expos, people were coming there to buy a pizza franchise, burger franchise, whatever. They were passing by our booth and they're like, what is bookkeeping franchise? Well, what are you guys doing? So people didn't even comprehend it. Okay, so not everybody, but it was a novelty. So we had to educate people and you had to pay for it, doing the articles, doing whatever. Podcasting was not as popular when we started as it is now. So that's why it took way more it took longer, and then it's also we spent way more money than we were planning to.
Oh yeah, because I'm hoping to learn more exactly about how your business model works. But you have some people, they have like the simple franchises where seemingly anybody can do it. Like for example, if you were to go to a Subway store, you can almost teach somebody in one day what it would take to make all of these subs. But I imagine that a bookkeeping franchise seems more complex. Is it as complex for the franchisor as it seems, or are you just hiring these people, or are they utilizing you and your people as a centralized location to do the bookkeeping? Is it as complex as it seems?
Well, depends. It can be complex, but the whole point of franchising in principle, it's a blueprint. So if you follow the blueprint, then you have a huge probability of being successful. And I would disagree with you that it takes one day, and I know you didn't mean it literally, but it actually, any training takes time, because it's not about, like, the owner of Subway, for example, doesn't have to know how to make a sandwich, but he or she has to know how to run the business and make sure that when people show up to buy a sandwich, it's their order will be fulfilled. So franchises like Taco Bell, Subway, McDonald's, they're in fulfillment business. They don't have to go and do business development, tell everybody, hey, there is Subway. Everybody knows who Subway is, okay? BooXkeeping, we don't have the name recognition that Subway or Taco Bell does. So our franchisees have to do business development on top of doing actual fulfillment.
And yeah, and what you just mentioned is something that a lot of people typically, and that's why most people only know about restaurant franchises, because typically whenever you think of franchise, you think of a restaurant. But I believe, and let me know what the numbers are for sure, but is it only approximately 30% of franchises are actually restaurants, or is that another number?
From what I know, it's about a third. You're right. And there are actually over 3,000, close to 4,000 active franchises in the United States.
Mm-hmm. All right. So how do you, so the person that's, and just so the audience knows, what would you say is the difference between a franchisor and a franchisee? And what do you can classify yourself as?
So the franchisor is actually the company who came up with the idea and who is helping franchisees, the actual people who own the local businesses under your name and umbrella, to be successful. So I'm a franchisor, but people who bought my franchise and running local stores, Miami, Orlando, Las Vegas, whatever, they are the franchisees of the concept. So I'm the ZOR, the short version, and they're the Z's. And then so the Z's have to follow the rules that ZOR creates for them. For example, if BooXkeeping colors are black, red, and white, they cannot make it blue, yellow, and green because it matches the color of their eyes. It has to stay black, red, and white because these are the corporate colors. BooXkeeping is not offering tax services, and that's a strategic decision because we're getting a lot of referrals from CPAs, but they cannot start adding tax services to their businesses because this is against our policies. So the people who buy a franchise have to follow the certain rules that franchisor is setting up for them.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you definitely want to differentiate yourself from other people doing the thing. And I notice you spell your name BOOX, capital X, keeping. How did you come up with that name?
So I started the business with my wife at the time, who is still, she's a co-founder, and we run the business together. Her name is Elena. She's ex-wife now, but we're still, doing that. She's a huge part of the business. She does the training, and she's the chief people's officer. So we were sitting at the bar and playing with the word. We're still fighting, quote unquote, who came up with BooXkeeping. We're still arguing about it, but we were just playing with the words. And then the name BooXkeeping came up because obviously we had to trademark it, and you can't trademark the word bookkeeping. So we came up with the word BooXkeeping. We called an attorney, and he told us, you are not going to get it trademarked because it's only one letter. They're going to tell you, no, come up with something else, like Max's bookkeeping or whatever. And we're like, okay, maybe it's time to change an attorney. So we went to a different attorney. He applied, and we got approval from the first try. So, which, like, I'm so grateful that we went for second opinion. Otherwise, BooXkeeping would not exist. And I absolutely love the name because, again, we changed one letter and came up with, a lot of people, at least in San Diego, where we started the business, who are CPAs, bankers, I can still hear them saying, well, I've done my BooXkeeping for the year. So they're using the word BooXkeeping instead of the word bookkeeping. So this is awesome.
Oh, yeah. And that's very important, I think, for people to hear. Is when you are considering joining any franchise, I'm assuming that you recommend that the people get their own franchise attorney. Maybe you have some recommendations for them. But one thing that people should know is that not all attorneys know everything. I don't know if there's one attorney that knows everything, but it sounds like what you're saying is uh, don't just go off of what you hear the first time, whether they're an attorney or not. It's not a bad idea to get a second opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, you actually bring a very good point. So we have a franchisee who is ready to come to the system, and every franchise system has an agreement, franchise agreement. So we gave it to them, and he made a mistake of hiring a regular attorney who has zero knowledge about franchising. And this attorney gave our potential franchisee 15 pages of notes and comments. And so the guy's coming back with all these notes, is like, well, this. And then it took a while for my team to explain to him that this is a standard boilerplate language for franchise industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be changed because it's standard in the whole thing. And the guy was, who was his attorney, was an M&A attorney. So he was trying to renegotiate. Nobody's renegotiating franchise agreement. The job of franchise attorney to explain all the, everything that you need to know about the agreement. That's really it. You can change small things, but the franchise agreement, 99.9% of the time, stays the same. Then the franchisee decides, do I want to buy this franchise or not? Because if you let one person to have an exception, you're going to go and another person will ask, if your royalties are, let's say, 10%, you can't just say, hey, Randall, you're a cool guy. I'll give it to you at 7%. Then I have to give 7% for everybody else. So you can negotiate all you want. You're not going to get it.
Oh yeah,
because that's how franchising works. I mean, you can be the best restaurant owner in the world, but McDonald's is not going to let you sell pizza at their locations, even if you promise them you're going to bring their revenue to $1 billion. So it's not going to happen. But back to your comments about franchisors and franchisees, even though franchisees have to follow the franchisor rules, the best ideas in franchising came from franchisees. So we always have an open communication, and I'm always listening, and the whole team is listening. And sometimes franchisee just came up with ideas we haven't thought about it. Just to give you the idea, the bucket that in KFC came from a franchisee. Big Mac came from a franchisee. So it wasn't the idea of the Zor. One of the Z's just said, well, why don't we put a chicken in a bucket? And now it's pretty much the business card of the brand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. From what I've seen, the best franchisor relationships work when it's a back and forth when it comes to collaboration. Now, just like you said, you're not, if you are somebody, because typically people who buy franchises are people who are management in the corporate world, and they want to take their skill set and bring it over to something that they can start building some type of equity and ownership and legacy with. So, of course, the franchisees aren't going to change everything, but just like you said, there's innovation in the team, and a lot of times outside looking in, they can give you some good insight.
Absolutely.
Okay, so very few, and I imagine you may know the percentage, but very few franchises have more than 10 locations, let alone over 100 locations. Do you know the percentage? Because I can't think of it off the top of my head, but do you know the percentage of franchises that actually reach over 100 locations, and how did you manage to do it?
Well, I'm not at 100 locations yet. We are doing bookkeeping for over 100 different franchises.
Oh, that's right. Okay, gotcha.
I mean, look, if I had 100 franchises right now, you would have to talk to my people to get me on your podcast. I'm kidding. But, I don't remember the exact percentage, but if I'm not mistaken, only 10% of the existing franchises in the United States have more than 10 or 15 units. So I know that we are in the top 10%. Leave alone the 100, we're talking in single digits, out of all the number of franchises. And only few have over 1,000 locations. So this is, franchising is great, but not a lot of people are making through first 10, then 20, and then 50 and 100. So it's a process. You can't get from 0 to 100 in 2 months. Because, and actually I've seen it happening where franchises would grow that fast. Maybe like within a year they would sell 100 locations, but then they could not deliver, and they would just go busted because franchisees were not getting the support, and the whole system, like domino effect, would fall down.
Mm. Is there any difference? Because so you specialize in doing the bookkeeping for franchisees. Do you typically form your relationships through the franchisor first, or are you typically a franchisee first type of relationship builder?
No, it's franchisor. And the fact that I'm a franchisor, we are seeing each other at many conferences, and a lot of these people become my mentors and become my friends. And look, because of these people, because of other franchisors, I became a franchisor. So first we started doing bookkeeping for franchises by accident. 1, 2, 3. And I started hanging out with other franchisors. And I've seen how open they are to help you. I've done it myself. I'm not going to mention the name, but I stopped a CEO of one of the brands that has over 1,000 locations. I stopped him in the lobby of the convention center. I asked him a couple questions. He asked me, what is my brand? We talked about it. That was when I had 2 or 3 locations. So the guy spent 30 minutes talking to me. Then he like, well, write down my cell phone. If you have any questions, call me at any time. I mean, where else can you see it? And we're in completely 2 different industries. So he wasn't looking to gain anything from me, but he just did it to pay it forward, to help me, a young entrepreneur, not necessarily the age, but in terms of like emerging entrepreneur, to help me on my journey. So when I saw that, I'm like, you know what? I want to be like them when I grow up. And I guess I've grown up.
Oh, definitely. What would you say are some misconceptions that people have about franchising? And is there nothing that you do to help them cut through all of that noise?
So the biggest misconception is that you don't have to do anything. You just have to, pretty much franchisor will do everything for you. So it's not going to happen. Okay. Depends on what franchise you buy. I'm also running a franchise brokerage. So if somebody not a good match for bookkeeping, I can help somebody to pick another franchise. And I have over 600 franchises I have an agreement with that I can, present a candidate to. And by the way, I don't get paid until somebody buys a franchise. So my services are completely free. However, people think that, well, I'm going to buy, restaurant franchise. They'll do all the work for me. I don't have to worry about the customers. And that's true. Look, if you buy a Taco Bell franchise, you don't have to run around town and giving flyers. Well, here's Taco Bell, here's Taco Bell. Taco Bell is doing it on national television. However, when people come to your Taco Bell, you have to make sure you fulfill that there is going to be a line of 50 people. They're not going to wait 40 minutes for their tacos. So your job is to fulfill. If somebody buys BooXkeeping franchise, yes, they have to do bookkeeping, but they also have to go and do business development. But to open BooXkeeping franchise, excuse me, it's going to cost you, $70,000. To open McDonald's is going to cost you over $1 million because you have to have, the building, you have to buy the equipment, you have to do everything. You don't need an equipment to run a bookkeeping business other than computer, printer, and phone.
Oh, yeah, because I know a lot of people, even before COVID and all of that, but especially after, a lot of people are perfectly comfortable doing business virtually. So that approximately $70,000 to get up and going with your franchise, does that include the franchise fee? And
Yes.
For people who don't know, what is the franchise fee, and why is that something that they shouldn't be scared of paying?
Well, franchise fee is the original fee that you have to pay to start a franchise. But in a lot of cases, franchise fee is not the only expense. In some cases, it's the smallest portion because, I don't remember on top of my head, but I think McDonald's franchise fee is under $100,000. So it's not that expensive, but it's getting the building, getting the equipment, getting the training and everything going. Because I think at average McDonald's, you have 30 to 45 employees working at a given month, because a lot of them are part-timers. So you have to get all these people, hire them, pay them salary, train them before you even open your door.
Oh yeah.
So it's very expensive to run a business. Again, a bookkeeping business, or if you buy insurance franchise, payroll franchise, you don't have to have an office, because you're right, you can do the work remotely, or you go and network or at client side. So you go to different offices, you knock the door, you schedule meetings, and you come to them. I mean, I don't know. We started using McDonald's as an example, but obviously it's not just McDonald's. Pizza Hut, they're all the same, smaller restaurant franchises. You're not going to come to somebody's office to sell them, Pizza Hut pizzas. You actually, going to pay money, a lot of money, to have a national and local advertising. But you're not going to knock the door and leaving the flyer to come to talk about.
Oh yeah, a lot of times people, which I know once they read the FDD, the franchise disclosure document, they can see more about what it typically costs overall to get these things up and running. But yeah, what you're saying is, don't just pay attention to the franchise fee. Also pay attention to how much it costs to get up and running, and how long it takes. Because a lot of times with these brick and mortar locations, it can take upwards of 18 to 24 months before you even ready and prepared to accept your first customer.
Yes, because that's how long it takes to build the building. Some of them require completely new equipment, and like if you're talking about Sky Zone, for example, this franchise where kids go in and experience like jumping with a parachute, but you're not actually jumping, so just you're floating in the air, so it's a lot of fun. But it's gonna cost 1.2 million to open it, and you have to build the building most of the time from scratch, because you can't find like an old bank where you're gonna put it. Has to have a certain height and size, so you build it from scratch. You have to buy the equipment, you have to train. So you're right, it's at least a year, if not 18 months.
Yeah, and I'm saying these things not to discourage people from going into whatever business model that they want, because if you want a Sky Zone, if you want a McDonald's, if you want a Pizza Hut, if you want a bookkeeping business, do what you have to do. But a lot of times when you look at the bottom line, just because you spent $1 million to open it doesn't mean that's going to reflect in your net bottom line. Because a lot of times, based off of the rent, based off of the employees, your bottom line is the same as somebody who only has 2 employees. That has a remote business with only 2 employees. You might be bringing home $150,000 a year, the same as this person with 30 employees, $1 million startup bringing home the same thing.
Yes, but look, there are advantages also to buy businesses like Sky Zone, because you can have multiple locations, and then eventually you can sell it to private equity and make a really, really nice exit. So I don't want to discourage people and say they're not good businesses. They're great businesses. And keep in mind, all the businesses that you mentioned, they are part of the SBA financing through the US government. So you actually can get financing to buy and open all these businesses. I mean, look, some people do have cash and they buy businesses in cash. I can assure you, majority of people who spent $1.2 million to open a Sky Zone, they actually get a loan. And then they give a, whatever, 20% down, and then the rest they're financing. Because it's actually a great idea, because you can, even if you have $1 million, open 5 locations.
And what
if you can get the financing at $6 million, I mean, just, use somebody else's money. That's one of the, principles of financing. Is it riskier than use your own money? Absolutely. But is that something I would suggest as a franchise broker? Yes, because instead of 1 location, you can, diversify and open 5.
Yes, and what you're referring to is a lot of times when somebody buys a business, they don't want to buy a job. And yes, your bottom line while the business is operational might be the same as the person who has these brick and mortar locations. What you're saying is they're able to sell it to a private equity or another type of buyer because the business is running on its own, whereas the other type of business may need you to operate. And if it needs you to operate, what exactly is this private equity company purchasing?
Well, I mean, look, private equity is actually looking for you not to be in the business, because if you are the bottleneck and pretty much you closing all the contracts, you talk to everybody, they're like, well, we're going to spend all this money and then you're going to leave as the owner. Who's going to run the business?
Yeah,
So
what did we
before
just
you
buy?
set, yes, exactly. So the best advice I've got, well, I got many good advices from existing franchisors. Before you sell the system, make sure you step out of this as the owner. Like, try to minimize it and maybe show up twice a week and just run, high level meetings, and then let the team to do everything else. Then you can get a better multiple on your business.
Absolutely, because that is one of the key components to determining if you are ready to franchise your system is, all right, uh, am I able to not touch, like, work in the day to day of my business and have it still be operational? Because once you become a franchisor, that's essentially like becoming a business coach, but you're a business coach to your system. And if you don't have the time to step outside of your system to be a business coach to these people who are franchising with you, that could be tough, especially if you this is your first 1 to 2 franchises. You really need these first franchisees to be your cheerleaders. And if you don't have the time to spend time with them to make them successful, you can almost say that absolutely nobody is going to buy any additional franchises, especially when you have to update the results in your franchise disclosure document, your FDD.
Results is one thing. I agree with you wholeheartedly, but it's not just the results. There is also validation, because when we have a candidate buying a new franchise, he or she has an opportunity to contact any franchisee in the system. You cannot, as a franchisor, legally say no and ask any questions. And we as a franchisor are not at the call, so they can ask question. Hey, is Max an asshole? Is Max going to be available for me when I have question? The type question like that. I have no idea what they're asking. I have no idea, and I cannot control what the answers they're getting. But if I have unhappy franchisees, the validation is not going to go well, and then people not going to buy franchises.
Oh yeah, and that validation is very important. I know a lot of franchise consultants recommend that even if the numbers look great, they recommend that you spend at least a couple days inside of the business. They also recommend that you talk to the franchisor before you make the commitment. Do you make those same recommendations to the people that you work with, or no?
Well, absolutely. And as a franchisor, remember, I'm a franchise consultant and a franchisor. Just obviously, I have teams of people working in each business, but I spend as much time as need be as a franchisor with potential candidates. And my team is doing the same. It's called Discovery Day, where they come in. It's all done virtually, but they come in and they can ask any questions. They first have access to me. I answer the question as a CEO, and then they have access to the rest of the team, and they can ask the same question. Hey, what is culture for you? What is support for you? What exactly are you going to do for me? So I always tell my franchisees, right now, they have access to me. They have my phone number in their Rolodex, and they can, in their phone actually, they can text me, call me, and I'm always available. I can text them back, or we can schedule a quick call. When you get to, let's say, 100 franchises, as much as I would love to be available for all of the franchisees, I won't be. So they have to make an appointment. Not because I don't like them, but because I actually not going to have time. I mean, I've been to some franchise conferences with 600 or 700 franchisees in the system. People actually form a line to take a picture with the CEO of the company because they haven't met this person. It's a great franchise system. Again, Randall, please understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying 600 franchises is bad. It's just a different system, because this CEO has a team of probably 40 or 50 people who actually provide all the support. And they're valuable, and they're probably even more valuable for franchisees than, have access to the CEO, because they've been doing that for years and they're very experienced. But people form a line, hey, I want to take a picture with the CEO. Right
Oh yeah.
now, I'm talking to our franchisees literally on a weekly basis. We have a weekly town hall for franchisees. either me or somebody else from the C level is always there, and then they can ask questions and then have access to us at any point of time.
Oh yeah, it seems like you have a system that has things in place to help people move forward, and you're being very transparent, saying, "Say, hey, you got me now, but as we grow, you may or may not have the same access to me." Whereas some people might just claim, no matter how big we get, I'm just one phone call away. It's better to be upfront and transparent about what's going on than to set wrong expectations, especially with the average franchise agreement being approximately 10 years. This is a relationship where you're making a 10-year commitment to somebody. So what you're about to add something to that?
No, I was just going to say that before I went into franchising, I owned a construction company, and that's what led me to bookkeeping, and the bookkeeping led me to bookkeeping franchise. But my point is, when I started the construction business, we had 3 employees. And then before the business closed, we had 96 employees. And I was telling myself, I'm going to know every employee, no matter, how many I have. And I was very good, maybe till we get to 15, 20, 25. I knew the name of their kids and, their names and everybody. But at some point, I've seen them all, they had access to me, but I did not know. It's just physically impossible to have the same knowledge about 96 employees as you did about 10 or 15. And it's fine. It's the gross problems, but I had managers under me. So back to your point, I tell the franchisees, yes, I might not be a phone call away in 2, 3, 4 years, but I promise you there will be people who are going to be probably even more qualified than me to answer questions you might have. And if they cannot, then I will step in and I'll make sure you get the answer.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. What's the description from the people that you've seen so far that's successful in your system? Do they have to be currently experienced and knowledgeable in bookkeeping, or have you experienced that? Have you seen that the people that are least experienced have the best results?
Well, we have a mix. So it depends on the person. First of all, any successful franchisee has to have one most important quality, is to be coachable. Because if somebody is not coachable, if somebody going to tell you, son, let me tell you how I'm going to run your business, you don't want this person as a franchisee. So we say no more time than we're saying yes. So when people go through discovery day or executive call, they think that they're shopping us. We are shopping them as well. And sometimes we just say, sorry, we don't think we're a good match for you. And the franchisor has a full right to say it without explanation. So it's not like, an employment where you can't, and again, we are not discriminating. This is more like, okay, is this person, in my opinion, which is very subjective, is this person going to be a good match for the system or not? Because we have a culture. Culture is huge for bookkeeping. So I want to make sure this values that this person has going to be the same, going to be aligned with our culture. I'm not going to let one person to break the whole system because I really need his franchise fee right now. So I'm not going to do that. So first of all, the franchisee has to be coachable. And second, no, they don't have to be existing bookkeepers. We'll train them. They have to like numbers. I always joke, and I have a minor in history, so I can say that if you're a history major and you've never seen financial statement before, maybe bookkeeping is not a business for you. Because you don't have to do the accounting, but you have to understand and you have to like the numbers. Like, if you're absolutely allergic to dogs, then maybe buying a dog grooming business franchise is not a good idea. Even if you're planning to have employees, still you're going to step into your own business. You go in. So this is just, be logical about it. I'm not an accountant, so please don't ask me any accounting questions. But, I'm dangerous enough to talk about it for hours. I'm a finance guy. But I knew that when we started the business, and, I had always somebody who was actually good in accounting. But I'm pretty good with sales and business development, so that's my strong skill. Okay, so we do train. So training is the biggest thing that you want to look when you buy a franchise. What kind of training am I getting? So bookkeeping provides so-called 3, 6, 9, 12 model. We provide 3 months of accounting school, 6 months of no minimum royalties. So whatever you sell, we just get royalties percentage of that, but there is no minimum. We give our franchisees 9 months of sales training with live sales coach, and we also provide 12 months of executive coaching, where the job of an executive coach is to get a franchisee to the peak of their performance. And I've seen a lot of success with that. So the person who is doing it, she's my co-founder. She's PhD and she's doing it for companies like PepsiCo and other big corporations. And she's charging generally $5,000 per month per person. Our franchisees and employees get it for free for a year. So the value of all the training that we pay for is more than the franchise fee that we're getting from our franchisees, because I believe that, the more successful they become, the more successful the system is going to be overall.
Absolutely. So, and you're definitely very well-rounded. For example, not a lot of franchisors take the time to become a certified franchise executive. What exactly is that? And I know it's issued by the International Franchise Association. What exactly is that for people who don't know, and how has that helped you with what you do?
So the CFE, or Certified Franchise Executive, you actually have to go to school and get classes, and you have to also go to many conferences and take some education online, and then pass bunch of tests. They want to make sure that you understand everything around franchising. From legal, it's not going to make you an attorney, and I'm not an attorney, but I can talk about it. I know about the FTD. I know about all the items and what information to look for, and then other stuff. So just make you well versed in franchising as a general. And on average, it takes 2 to 3 years to get your CFE. So it's not something that you decide, well, I want to become a certified franchise executive and I'm going to get it done by tomorrow. It's not going to happen. It takes on average 2 to 3 years to get that done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And of course, the more you know, the more you know, the more you don't know. But it seems like you're somebody who welcomes that feeling of needing to learn more, because you work with not only your people that you're bringing in, you work with the franchisors, you work with the franchisees, you work with the investors, and you work with these professionals exploring entrepreneurship. I know that you said coachability is the most important quality, but what would you say? Is there no specific description of the preferred person to introduce you to other than coachability, or is that just and like in numbers, or are those just the main two things?
Well, they're the main two things, but also somebody who is not afraid to talk to people and to do business development, not hard sell. We're not selling, a widget just one time. We sell service, so it's a relationship. But look, we can provide staff to do the work, but we do provide help with some clients. But however, it's a job and responsibility of our franchisee, BooXkeeping franchisee, to go and do business development and get a relationship with local CPAs, local bankers, local lawyers who will provide business referrals to them. So if you absolutely don't like talking to people and you want to stay in your corner, you're not going to be a good franchisee for BooXkeeping, because that's something that is going to be very, very hard to make you. Look, sales is not for everybody. You know that. My team, who I absolutely love, and I would not be able to do any work without them, would not be successful. I give it all to them. But the ongoing joke is like when I'm getting mad about something, like, well, if you're going to misbehave, I'm going to put you in charge of sale. And they're like, no, please don't. I mean, whatever you want to do. So they do the same thing to me. They're like, Max, if you don't stop doing it, we're going to make you do the actual accounting. I'm like, please, whatever you want, but don't put me in front of the computer, because, it's not my strong suit. Same for them. They're great in operations and everything else. They just don't want to go and do business development themselves.
Absolutely. Definitely. Oh, what books are you reading, Max?
So, unfortunately, I don't have enough time to read fiction books. I mean, I wish I did. And I remember growing up, I learned to read when I was 4, and I since then I started, like I stopped napping. I was reading all the time. My parents were telling me read as many books as you can because when you get older, you're not gonna have time. Like, what do you mean I'm not gonna have time? I'm always gonna have time to read books. But so now I mostly read, self-development and business books. So my absolutely most favorite book that I've read probably 5 or 6 times, it's called 10x is easier than 2x.
Dan Sullivan.
So Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy, and I know that Dan and Ben personally, and I'm part of Dan's strategic coach organization. I can tell you, you know, and I'm not getting paid to plug it in. That's the best thing that I've done for myself. So I'm now a CEO of 3 companies, and I have more free time than I did when I was just running one company because they're actually teaching you what to do with your time, how to be the most successful, how to delegate. So this is the book that completely changed my life. But there are other books that also I'm reading. I'm using shortcuts. It's called Blinkist. It's an app that gives you summary of the books and gives you like any business book in like 10 to 12 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, and just give you main points. Obviously, it's not the same as read the whole book, but I don't have enough time to read it. Like 10x, I've read, from beginning to the end, listen to a audio version and so on and so forth. But a lot of business books, I just get the summary, and if I get one idea out of this 15 minutes, that's it. Look, I listen to one book in the morning and one book at night. So that's 2 books that otherwise would take me probably a week to read each of them, which I just don't have that time.
Oh yeah, and that's very important for people to understand. A lot of people may or may not attend conferences, and they may or may not read multiple books. But what you just said is very important for people to understand. Yes, 99.9% of what you read in this new book or what you learn at this upcoming conference may be things that you've already heard before. But it's that one new thing that can completely shift what you have going on. For example, you mentioned Dan Sullivan's strategic coach, and I'm pretty sure Dan has tiers, but one of my mentors I know pays over 6 figures a year just to learn at the very least one new thing from that group, that organization. What made you join masterminds, and what do you get out of them?
So I had a mentor who was a client and then later became a friend and a mentor, and he was telling me about strategic coach, and I'm like, I have no idea what it is. But eventually I just felt that I'm just hitting the ceiling. I can't break through, and I was looking for the ideas. And then I remembered about strategic coach. I did some research and I joined, just trusting this person. And now it's the best thing that honestly happened to me. One of the best things happened. Like, I joined about 4 years ago, and this is actually, an absolute blessing. So you can call it tears, but you have to start from the regular strategic coach, and then eventually you can, get to different levels. They're actually not going to let you join the most expensive one in the beginning because they want you to cover the basics and learn the tools before you can actually get there. But every time I go there, it's not just the sessions, it's also spending time with these people. A lot of them became my close friends, and we hang out outside of the sessions, go to each other houses. I mean, we have people from all over the US and all over the world. So like this is really, really cool thing. You can call them and ask the question. It's being around people who are like-minded. Okay, it's not just about the tools. It's not about the seminar as one day a quarter. So it's up to you. You can go and spend 8 hours and then never look at it again. But then my question is, why are you doing it? But at the same time, I'm not the one who is, reviewing the material on a daily basis. I'm sure some people are. I'm just not doing it. But if I learn couple new tools and life hacks at the seminar, I'm going to use it for the next 3 months. And then I'm going to build on it. So It's being around people who understand you. It's very lonely at the top. I mean, people say that, and I had no idea what they meant until I actually started running the business. Because, look, a lot of my close friends who've been employees all their lives, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. They just don't understand what I'm doing. They just like, why are you opening a franchise? Your bookkeeping business is doing great. Just keep building what you're doing. I'm like, no, I want to diversify. I want to do that. And then later decided to open the brokerage. So people like, are you crazy? You now have two businesses. Why are you opening the third one? I can't explain them my thinking. And I don't know if what I'm doing is right or wrong. It's right for me. I'm not asking anybody's opinion. I might ask other people's opinion, but then I'm the one who is making the final decision, and I'm responsible for it. If it's
Oh yeah.
wrong, then it's wrong. Then, I'm going to build on it, learn from it, and move forward. So that's absolutely the best thing, is to find the like-minded people, no matter what you do. And that's, by the way, I just thought about it. Buying a franchise, you finding like-minded people, because you get a cohort of other franchisees that if you have an issue, you go and ask them, hey, how did you go about this? How did you go? I know that my franchisees of BooXkeeping, they actually talk among each other. They see each other outside of the regular meetings, and they call each other, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? It's awesome.
Oh yeah, and because what you're saying is not about what somebody says to you. A lot of times, is who is the person that says it to you. The person that I mentioned, that's a part of the group. That's one of my mentors. He had been working on a book for over 10 years that he was trying to perfect. And what he said, Dan Sullivan said, is it at least 80% ready? He said, yeah. He said, then put it out.
Mm-hmm.
Put
Yes,
it out.
I learned that also, that a good plan today is better than the perfect plan tomorrow. But that's not how I was brought up by my parents. Anything less than an A wasn't good enough, so I had to study my ass off to get an A. I remember hours of doing the homework and, trying to be the best, and, them just say, because that's how they were brought up. But now I'm like, hey, B is a great, great. I mean, you got to be awesome. Move on. I mean, if it takes you extra week to get an A, how much you can get done, with this extra week. Same goes with the book or any project. If your project is 80% ready, go for it, and then you'll figure out the rest. So I agree with Dan 100%, and that I learned actually from Strategic Coach, from Dan.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One thing that I like to share with people, I say, if typically when a little girl was growing up, her family would tell her to either marry a lawyer or a doctor, right? That used to be the perceived great professions for a daughter to marry. And then when you look at those perceived top tier professions, I say perceived because just because you're an attorney or a doctor doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the best living or the best balance of family and life and all of that and business. But that said, if you were to look at a doctor, they call what they do a medical practice. If you look at an attorney, they call what they do a law practice. Even the top tier professions and industries understand that they're practicing at being perfect, and done is better than perfect any day.
Yes, however, I want to be honest, and actually was joking to Dan about it. I want my doctor to be 100% right, not 80%.
Hey man, hey, I can agree with you on that, but to your point, what you said earlier about that attorney, I will say this: a doctor doesn't get paid until you agree to do the work. So just like that attorney that Matt's went to, for anybody that's listening, just like that attorney that Matt's went to get that second opinion, I definitely recommend you that whatever your doctor tells you, please at least get a second opinion. Because yes, we would love for our doctor to be 100% perfect, but they're human too. Max, is there not a question that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Well, we can go and have 10 different episodes. So it's been a great experience. But one thing that I wanted to mention, that I always tell, I have two boys, two kids, and I always tell them, if you see a door at least peek in and see what's inside. It might not be the door you want to go in, but don't pass on the opportunity. I can tell you many, many cases where I just, was curious, and this curiosity got me to, meeting the right people. And look, don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, that's just my unsolicited advice, because you don't know what you don't know. I mean, I'm asking for help all the time. Whenever I'm a strategic coach, I always want to meet new people. I'm always asking for new opinions. And I always learn something. Oh, I haven't thought about it. It's a great idea. Ultimately, I'll decide if I'm going to follow this or not. But at least I'm going to get 5 different opinions and then make my own mind. That's what you get when you go and get second opinion at the doctor. Using your example, you can still go and do what the first doctor told you. So you don't have to go with the second therapy. Well, I think I still like what the first doctor told me. But at least get these 2 or 3 opinions and see, because 2 heads are better than 1.
Oh yeah, 2 heads are better than 1. 4 ears are better than 2. Make one more time, Max. Please let people know who you are, what you do, and how they can get in touch.
So I'm Max Emma. I'm a certified franchise executive, and I run 3 companies. One is providing bookkeeping for small businesses as well as franchise brands in the United States. Currently, we do it for over 100 franchise brands. Second, I'm franchising my own concept called BooXkeeping. I'm selling bookkeeping franchises. And lastly, I own a franchise brokerage called Main Entrance. So we help people to choose the right franchise, and we're not getting paid until these people actually buy or and I'm paying for 9 months of sales training out of my pocket. And also I'm giving the significant portion of my commission to the candidate, because I believe that if I can help them to be more successful in the beginning, they eventually can buy more businesses, and then they can help other people to succeed. And the best way to find me would be my website, franchisewithmax.com, franchise with Max. Once you go in, you can decide if you want to talk to us about bookkeeping franchise, or maybe an opportunity to buy a franchise not related to bookkeeping.
Man, this has been a wealth of knowledge and another exciting and informative episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast, the place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. Once again, I am your host, life strategist Randolph Love III. Until next time, don't play with it, stay with it until you make pay with it. This is the Entreprenudist Podcast, signing off.